Let us hear again the words of the prophet Isaiah. Thus says the Lord God, who gathers the outcasts of Israel. I will gather others to them besides those already gathered. Part of the challenge of being members of the Longboat Island Chapel is trying to explain to our family, friends, and neighbors who we are as a community of faith. We might argue that we are our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. Thus, we might claim that we are love embodied, truth proclaimed, and service realized. We walk the talk. Yet such a bold affirmation even makes me a little nervous. Despite our best efforts, we do not always love one another. The truth can get muddled, and service can take a back seat to survival. The greater challenge is living into our statement of interfaith. This community, is an open door through which all may pass and be understood, to share their faith with anyone else without fear of ridicule or censure. There's no question that we have a lot of fun together, and together we strive to be welcoming of strangers. Nevertheless, it seems a rather bold assertion to proclaim that all are welcome here, irrespective of their faith and culture, that we will share their faith along with ours without fear, ridicule, or censure. What are we saying about ourselves? What are we opening ourselves to? Who are we? Some might describe our community as being progressive, though for some of our members, progressive also means being liberal, which has distinct political overtones. Yet as a community that has welcomed Tom and I with open arms, you have set yourselves apart from many congregations throughout the world. Perhaps welcoming would be more fitting for our community. We are also Christian, despite our interfaith statement. Apart from Mimi and a Jewish couple that attends on occasion to hear one of Pastor Gill's sermons, most of us come from mainline denominations up north, with a few Catholics thrown in. You're probably getting tired of me telling my joke that we consider ourselves interfaith because we welcome Catholics. But wouldn't that be intra-faith rather than interfaith? I would be inclined to describe the chapel as congregational. From my conversation with many of the members over the last few years, it would seem that we have more members who have been or still are involved with congregational churches up north. Of course, Judy Aker, our board president and Presbyterian, may likely disagree. When I was first getting to know you, I considered the chapel closer to Unitarianism. But despite complaints that we don't say Jesus enough, we are without a doubt Christ-centered. It would be simpler to describe ourselves as non-denominational, but that is also not the truth, for we are a member of the body of the International Council of Community Churches, an organization we continue to support financially. You may recall my statements from last April that the ICCC was organized to confront the racial issues that divided Christian communities in the 1950s. So once again, we come back to the question, who are we truly as a community of faith? That painting we talked about that now adorns the pulpit is a direct result of Reverend Marsh's ministry. You may recall a wooden version that still hangs in the entryway. If I remember correctly, and I did check this morning, that earlier version was completed in a class led by Bobby Benan, who was influenced by Reverend Marsh's ministry. And I've lost myself. During the season, at the weekly potluck seminars, Reverend Marsh would offer an abbreviated session of his world religions course that he taught at Manatee Community College. And through his ministry, he also instilled a sense, this identity of being interfaith. Then again, this openness to others was preceded by the ministry of Reverend Kincaid, a period in which our affirmation of faith was written. However, if we honestly ask ourselves whether a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu would recognize us as being anything but Christian, I suspect we already know the answer. I have not been to a Sabbath service, but I have attended a Jewish wedding ceremony. However, one only needs to watch Fiddler on the Roof to know that our Jewish brothers and sisters worship differently. They speak another language. Their worship has its own sense of form and movement. Likewise, we have become aware through the nightly news the daily call to prayer by Muslims around the world, spoken in Arabic. As Christians, believers in the unity of God, we may find it difficult to contemplate the many gods of Hinduism. Yet for Muslims, it's equally difficult to comprehend the Christian Trinity, God three in one. Surprisingly, I've only attended one interfaith service, an A's memorial service which was held at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Manhattan. The Christians offered their prayers in English, the Jews in Hebrew, and the Muslims in Arabic. Songs were sung from a variety of traditions, yet it all still had a sensible Anglican order.